the Dunning-Kruger effect, as per Wikipedia, of course. Hypothetical cognitive bias stating blah blah blah. No, in reality, what it is smart people tend to underestimate their ability to do stuff, and not smart people tend to overestimate their ability to do stuff. So, for instance, you'll see really high intellectuals, they will kind of not underperform, they will undershoot how they expect themselves to do something, especially in their field of expertise, probably because they're so high and mighty, and
They have high standards for themselves.
yeah, they believe that they can always achieve more and whatever. And then there are the people that think that they are of that level, but in reality they are not, and instead just choose to tell people that they are. And they also end up, like I said, underperforming, and you know, it's just a complete overestimation of how skilled or
How competent someone is versus their actual perception of their competence.
yeah. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, and I've seen it definitely in my life. I've seen it
I
a
have
lot.
too. I think you sent a message to me. You gave an example where like over 90% of managers, they think that there's a problem in the workforce, but only 50% of them think it's their fault or they have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I don't even know where I read it, or maybe I watched it in a video, but it was one of the funniest things I'd ever read because it's literally the token thing you can say about this.
Yeah, it's never my fault. I'm never wrong. It's always someone else that's the problem, not me.
Yeah, literally.
Cuz
Where's
cuz
the
I'm too
accountability,
good.
people? Come on.
Yeah. So in case that definition was a little nuanced or whatever, I don't know. Here's the dummy dumb version of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So audience, if you've ever met a guy or girl and they talk about themselves in such a high regard and say they're super skilled, and then you see them in action and all of a sudden not only are they not as skilled as they perceive themselves as, they happen to be the least skilled individual of your group. That's basically it. Basically, someone who sees themselves as really cool and really skilled, when in actuality, they're the least skillful person of them all. And the people who actually do have skill typically are more self aware of how good they are. And the people with the highest skill typically also have a good perception that they're like basically experts. So if you're an expert at something, there's a good chance you know you're an expert, but you always strive for more. I've never seen an expert who never aspires for more. I always see experts as people who are constantly trying to learn. They never are satisfied with their current level. Meanwhile, the people who are quote unquote the super skilled in their own eyes, aka the other side of the curve, they also see themselves in the highest light. However, they have absolutely zero aspiration for trying to get better because they're perfect. You don't mess with perfection, right, guys? Like, come on.
No,
Let's
of
be
course
real
not.
here. If you're perfect, what do you need to change? You know?
That's hilarious.
And that's basically it. If it's basically people who think they are better than what they are versus people who know their actual skill level. And we'll either put a picture or a link, a Wikipedia link in the description. But basically, if you want to know what the graph looks like, it's basically a smiley face where the left side is the not so competent people and the right side is the very competent people. So the two peaks are basically how high the person actually perceives themselves and their skill level. So the left is very high on the left side of the smiley face, where they think they know it all, and the right are the experts who actually know it all. And it's so weird. But I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this can best be summed up with a simple phrase: ignorance is bliss. These people literally don't know that they don't know anything, so they just say, yeah, I know this, I'm an expert, I know what I'm talking about, when in actuality they don't know what they're talking about.
No, it makes total sense. I'm not a really big believer in the idea of ignorance is bliss, but I have to say that yeah, in their case, it totally makes sense. What was the biggest kind of in-person example or personal experience you've had with someone that you just know talks a lot of game and can't back it up?
Well, there will be people who start citing facts, and I always love when the facts they're citing happen to be things that I personally am very interested in and things I'm really passionate about. So when they start saying, "Oh yeah, did you know this?" I'll let them talk. Don't get me wrong. I'll let them speak their hearts out and explain to me how valid their facts are. And then at the end I'll say something like, "Hey, that's not true." Not obviously not so crudely, but I will at some point hint at the fact that, hey, by the way, there are certain parts of your thing that I know aren't true. Um, I think I don't want to get personal with any of my friends or enemies, so I guess I'll say something. I'm a bit of a tennis fanatic, so I know a lot of trivia facts and a lot of history about tennis. And sometimes I'll meet old people at tennis clubs and such, and they'll say, "Oh, in 19 something something, this person beat this person," and I'm like, "No, they didn't. That's not what happened." And but they'll talk so confidently. They'll act as though they know it all. It's the truth. And it's very peculiar to see what happens when you tell them that's not what happened. This is the actual thing that happened, and they kind of that facade starts to break, and they admit that, oh, I may have gotten this wrong, and it's funny. It's funny, but did it ever happen at work? Did I ever meet someone who acted smarter than me at work?
I feel like that definitely has had to have happened to you.
I feel yes. I feel that probably has happened. I feel because I was so not. I'm not bragging because this specific job the level was not the highest, but I do feel that my level was good enough for that position, such that even if they tried acting smarter than me, I would just so quickly eclipse what their perception of smart was that it wouldn't matter. you know,
Wow.
I'm trying not to brag, right? But the level of work they were giving me versus the level of work I'm capable of doing clearly did not match, and I don't know what their expectations of how good or bad of a worker I was, but every time they gave me something to do, I would finish it immediately, and they would come back to me. I would go back to them and I would say, "Here, it's finished," and they would say, "You finished? I expected this in a week, not half an hour." And I don't think that's an inherently. Like I said, I don't want to bring up any names of not former friends, former friends, or enemies, or former enemies. You know,
Enemies. As if this is some kind of strategic war or whatever.
no, but we'll do it our own way. We don't want to burn any bridges that we might need to end up crossing at some point.
As long as your enemies don't know who they are, then that's all that you need.
Exactly.
No, I do have to say the whole ignorance is bliss thing works out for those people. I also do think though that the opposite is true. Or I'm a non-believer in the exact opposite, right? Because having too much non-ignorance also is not very blissful at all. Think about the people that are plagued with having a lot of knowledge. They either have just so many problems they cannot answer, or all the solutions to the world and yet nothing to do with them. Because if you talk to some of the smartest people in the world, they're either still growing that knowledge base, or like I said, the other two things. They're not really as happy, and that just proves that there is just something way more than acquiring all the knowledge, all the information, right?
I believe that in life there's a certain extent of living to see the end, living to find out more truths, living to dare I say, compounds the human knowledge. Hashtag
Right.
episode 50.
Yeah.
But it's just strange. Bringing it back to Dunning-Kruger, it's just so weird to see people act smart. It's just such an odd thing, because you know me, I'm not the person who likes showing off. At least not very often. I usually prefer to stay in the background and just do my work and let my work speak for itself. And I feel people on the left side of the Dunning-Kruger curve are just literally the polar opposite of my mentality of all talk, no show. Act smart, don't be smart.
Right.
And it's just weird seeing people like this in real life.
Yeah. I've met a lot of people that do that stuff. I will also definitely not name them, but you know who you are. Or maybe you don't. Ooh.
Exactly.